Hi, I'm Allison Ryan. I'm a literacy specialist. In this video, we're going to cover parent tips for supporting primary students with writing. So writing is actually one of the most challenging tasks that we can ask our young students to do. And the reason for that is because there's so many pieces of the puzzle. Some of them are still learning how to hold a pencil and write for extended periods of time, how to form the letters correctly. Sometimes they have to choose an idea of what to write about, remember the things that they want to say, and continue to write them. Spelling words can be a challenge, and then just constructing sentences. So when a child is writing, all of these things are going on in their brain. And so that's what makes it so challenging, just all the different things they have to think about. And then for us as the adults, writing can actually be one of the hardest things for us to help the children with. And the reason for that is because when we see their work, we see the spelling mistakes, we see the grammar issues, we see the problems, and we have to find that balance between correcting them and guiding them, but also not discouraging them from writing. So it's challenging both for the kids and for us as adults. Let's talk a little bit about encouraging proper pencil grip. Now, depending on your child's development, they may already have this down, and that's great. But if they're still working on it, A, just know that it takes time, and B, it does require certain development of hand muscles, the small muscles in the hand. And these muscles are different from what a child would use to trace something on a tablet, for example. Now, as you can see here on the right-hand side, we have two illustrations of proper pencil grip. One is a tripod grip, that's the top one. In this illustration, you can see that the child is gripping the pencil with their index finger and the thumb, and then the pencil rests on kind of like the third finger, or the stack of other fingers. And then on the bottom, you've got a quadrupod grip, also perfectly fine, where the child is holding the pencil with the middle finger, the index finger, and then the thumb, and then the pencil is resting on the fourth finger or the ring finger. Now, it does take time for students to build up writing stamina. Let's think about running a race, right? You may be able to run for 5 minutes at first, and then eventually you get to 10 minutes, 20, an hour. It takes time to build stamina for writing as well. So if writing is ever painful for your child or they're just complaining about it, try setting a timer, have them write for that amount of time. It could just be 3 to 5 minutes, and then allow them a break, and then they come back and keep working. That is something that can help build stamina. Another thing that can help build those muscles is, if I haven't mentioned this already, playing with Play-Doh or clay. That can help build those little muscles in the hand that then contribute to writing stamina. Another thing that can be challenging for children is just choosing an idea or picking something to write about. Now, sometimes they may get assignments where the teacher is specifying exactly what they have to write about. Answer this question, respond to this, make up a story about this. But then sometimes the teacher may just give a general topic and they have to pick something more specific to write about, or they have to pick what they're going to write about altogether. Now, regardless of what the assignment is, talking about the topic beforehand can help your child write with more details. So let's say that the teacher has asked the children to write a how-to piece about how to brush your teeth. So instead of just telling your child to sit down and begin writing, start discussing it. Say, okay, when you're going to brush your teeth, what do you do first? And have the child tell you. And you can also ask questions like, what would you need to brush your teeth? What materials would you need? And then they can name toothbrush, toothpaste, water. Get them thinking about all the little details that they might include in their writing. So having that conversation before they sit down and write can be really helpful in the writing process. Another thing to keep in mind is that writing is a form of communication. When we write an email or when we write a text message, we're communicating something to someone else. Even when we write a store list, we're communicating those thoughts, we're putting them down on paper for ourselves to look at later. And communication can be done in writing, but it can also be done in drawing. And that's how young children begin to communicate, with symbols, with drawings. And so that's perfectly acceptable. Now, maybe your child has a little bit of trouble with writing, or they're a little bit more reluctant to write, or you just feel like they enjoy drawing. Well, have them draw about whatever they're going to write about before they start writing. So if it's that brush your teeth topic, have them actually draw a picture of someone brushing their teeth, or have them draw a couple of pictures, and then they can use those pictures to write. It actually makes the writing process a little bit easier. Another thing that can be very challenging for young children is spelling words. So they're not going to know how to spell every word that they want to write, and that's okay. We don't want them limited to only the words that they know. Writing, again, is about communication. And so we want all of their thoughts to be able to come down onto the paper, even if the words are spelled incorrectly. You may have heard of invented spelling or temporary spelling or kid spelling. And all that is those are the spellings, kids' attempts at spelling words, and they may be incorrect. So if your child doesn't know how to spell the word cat, they might be saying the word cat, cat, listening for the sounds, writing a C, or maybe they write a K, and maybe they miss the vowel, and maybe they just write the T at the end. All of this is part of the learning process, and it's much better actually for kids to try to spell words and get them wrong than it is for you to be constantly telling your child how to spell each word or even having your child look the words up. That process of stretching out a word, listening for the sounds, and writing the sounds that they hear actually helps reinforce the phonics concepts that they're learning. And this helps not only with spelling and writing, but it also helps with reading. So that process of trying to spell words from their sounds is really good. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to allow our child to say, how do you spell this? How do you spell that? What we want to do instead is say, well, how can you figure that out? Or can you stretch out that word and listen for the sounds? Or is there a part of that word that you already know? We want to ask them questions and put the responsibility back on them. Because if you think about a typical classroom, maybe you have 20 or more first or second graders, the teacher can't possibly go around and help all of them spell the words. That's not realistic. And that would also slow down the process, right? Kids are thinking of things, they want to get their ideas down on paper, and so the best thing for them to do is just give it their best try and then move on. It's also important not to be constantly correcting your child, A, because it can be a little bit discouraging, but B, because your child's teacher, particularly if you're doing some kind of virtual or remote school, they need to see your child's spelling mistakes, because seeing the mistakes is actually what helps the teacher understand what to teach and how to help your child. If your child's teacher sees that all the words are spelled correctly, then the teacher might think that the child did that themselves, or the teacher is just not going to have that information about what spelling patterns, what phonics concepts the child needs to know. So it is really important for your child's teacher to see those spelling mistakes. Now, maybe sometimes the teacher will say, okay, I want you to edit this and make it ready to share with others. And in that case, yes, it's okay to help your child correct the spelling mistakes. There's a time and place for that. But on your everyday writing assignments, it's okay to just have your child leave the spellings as they are. And if your child says, is this correct? Well, just ask them a question. Well, did you write all the sounds? Can you read the word? Is there anything missing? Ask them and put the responsibility on them rather than correcting every single word that they write. Another thing that can be challenging for kids is actually just constructing a sentence. So kids have to learn, first of all, what is a sentence? Well, we can tell them that a sentence is a complete thought, and they'll learn that there's a capital letter at the beginning and some kind of punctuation at the end. Now, part of the challenge of constructing a sentence is just actually getting the child to remember what they planned to write. And this becomes easier, but if you notice that your child is halfway through a sentence and they forget what they were trying to write, then maybe your child needs to practice repeating the sentence 2 or 3 times before they even start writing. So if your child wants to write, I went to the zoo, just say to them, okay, tell me that sentence 2 more times. I went to the zoo. I went to the zoo. The more they repeat it, and they can keep repeating it to themselves as they write, the better, because then they're less likely to forget what they were writing about. Another great thing to do is after your child is finished, have them, or maybe halfway through, have them read their sentences aloud rather than you pointing out, oh, you didn't finish the sentence, or, the sentence is too long. Have them read their sentences out loud, read their writing out loud, and that will help them see mistakes and hopefully fix some of their own mistakes. So this is all challenging, right? Both for the kids and for us adults. So just some general tips. 1, we want to look for progress, not perfection. We talked about how the writing process, even just spelling words, that takes time. And so Whether a child is, at the point where they're just writing basic words or they're writing, paragraphs, we just have to keep in mind that for them to become more proficient writers, we can't set the bar so high that perfection is expected. We need kids to understand that they can feel comfortable taking risks. They can attempt to spell words the best that they can, and that's okay, and that they are growing as writers. We talked about this a little bit already, but try to help your child avoid becoming dependent on you. So if they're asking you, is this correct? Well, just say, well, what do you think? Did you do your best? And put it back on them. And remember, we talked about this before, but your child's teacher does need to see mistakes, especially if you're doing virtual school, even if it's homework. This is the only way that your child's teacher can understand how to help your child. So correcting every single piece of writing that they do is not helping the teacher. It's not allowing the teacher to see what your child needs in an accurate way. Last but not least, don't forget to have fun. Can feel a little stressful sometimes helping your child with their writing, but writing for primary students can be so much fun. This is a time for them to tell their stories, to use their imaginations sometimes, and just to get their thoughts on paper. And so the more fun you can have, the better. Let them take a break if they're feeling tired. Let them choose sometimes what they're supposed to be writing about. It really can be a fun process, even though it can also be challenging. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope that this video was helpful.